everyone. My name is Susanne Kirchmeier. My artist name is Electric Indigo. And I'm very happy to be here. And thank you, Severin, for the invitation that I can not only play DJ set later on, but also can present the newest female pressure facts study. I want to give you a short overview of the presentation that I'm going to make. I will first explain as short as possible what female pressure is, and then I will present the latest findings of our facts study with introduction, explanation of the methods, the results, obviously, and also the discussion part. And I will also present some of the calls to action that are included in the study, and will end with the credits of the fact survey. So, at first, female pressure is a network and an online database that I founded in 1998. So that's, I think, 26 years ago. And I founded it in Vienna, but my background, like my DJ and electronic music production background, is half and half Vienna and Berlin. I used to live in Berlin in the 90s. And as it is related so strongly with my personal career, I would say it's also rooted strongly in Europe, and in particular in Germany and Austria. But meanwhile, we do have almost 3,100 artists from 86 countries around the world. Nevertheless, 75% of these artists are actually based in Europe, and the biggest part of them in Germany. And within Germany, and that's no surprise probably for you, like a lot of people, over like almost 700, live in Berlin. So Berlin is like our epicenter, I would say. Regarding France, we also have like 150 artists listed in the database from France. And apart from the website femalepressure.net, where you can find the online database, we also have a mailing list, which is not a newsletter, but rather a discussion list, where one email to the list address reaches like about more than 1/3 of the members of the female pressure network. So currently it's about 1,300 mailing list subscribers. And apart from several social media channels, etc., what you could expect, we also have 7 regular radio shows in Austria, Germany, Spain, France, Greece, and the United Kingdom. So when you go to the website femalepressure.net, what you currently see, and this is like still a very old website, and you can guess that. But the main function of the website is actually the search interface to look for artists. So you can combine geographic location criteria with genre and profession, and you can also look for names. And one feature that I like a lot is that we have, every time you load the page, we have a randomly featured artist, because our network is very like grassroots and self-organized and non-hierarchical. And this is kind of a little symbol for this like aspired equality within the network. I'm quite proud of our links collection. So when you go to the About page on femalepressure.net, you find like a lot of links to, and in particular to other networks and indices and collectives, because there are really many for Flinter people, so for female and non-binary and transgender people. And I tried to collect them all in our link section. Yeah, the mailing list, I already mentioned it, has been existing for 20 years as well. So we have an immense archive, and mostly it's exchange of news. So most of the times people just say, hey, I have a new DJ mix out, or I have a new record out. But sometimes we also have really like intense discussions. And I'm actually, as a matter of fact, I'm still exhausted from a recent quite heavy discussion we had, like what I think the whole music world and the whole art world is occupied with the Palestine and Israel conflict. And it took several months, but it finally landed on the mailing list, and it led to a, I think, really good statement that we published on the 8th of March alongside with the facts study. Yeah, we have done like a lot of special projects over the years, and not only the various facts reports, but also we have a nice bi-weekly podcast series. We had made like 2 support compilations, one for Pussy Riot when they were imprisoned in Russia, and another one for the women in Rojava in northern Syria. Yeah, several radio shows. We in about 20 years ago, we had a project called Open Sounds, where we experimented with different ways to deal with copyright and ownership of material, where we would share sounds, and some other projects. You can find more about this on the website. All right, so that was a really short description. Maybe I should add, because I always forget it, and after decades of doing these kind of talks, if you want to become a member of the network, you have to write an email to info@femalepressure.net, and you will get in return from me, because I'm the only administrator of the thing, you will get like a sort of questionnaire, an explanation what Female Pressure is, that we're not a booking agentur, agency, etc., but rather just an online network, and with some questions about your professional profile. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the Facts 2024, the latest edition of our facts study. It's actually probably even the last one that we will publish. We have started working on it in 2013, in very early 2013, and it's the 6th report since then. It started from a notorious question that came up on the mailing list that was like, oh, festival XYZ again booked way too less women. And we like at some point somebody was asking, but actually, how were the numbers? Like, how many did actually play, and how was the proportion in comparison with the male artists that played? So we started to count festival lineups, and in the very first report we also counted some club lineups, or it was very chaotic. We counted some booking agency rosters, we counted artists that released on certain labels, for example, or artists featured in radio shows. So it was super chaotic and super grassroots, and people just kept emailing me some random numbers, not random, hopefully, but whatever they found when counting something. And I put everything together on our WordPress. And that was the first female pressure survey, like we called it back then, because it was not a real study. And then over the years, we became more professional. For the 2017 survey, we got a real statistician, Stephanie Roll, on board, and she helped us to level it up and to meet academic standards. So we made a synopsis and fixed, defined the methods, and we documented everything very well. And so we became really systematic for the 2017 issue. And then in 2022, we went another step further. We added to the quantitative study, we added a qualitative study, because obviously gender is not the only way marginalization and discrimination works in the music industry. And since we are trying our best to become a more intersectional network, we have been always also invested in question of intersectionality, and in particular race and ethnicity. So we were trying to approach whether we could examine the representation of Black artists and artists of color. We found it extremely challenging to find numbers for that. But we did actually several interviews, and so we did a qualitative study instead, and that's all in the previous report from 2022. We couldn't, because of running out of time and running out of energy also, we could not continue in this direction for this report. And not only that, but we decided that the core team of the facts survey or fact study, nicknamed the Troublemakers, by the way, is kind of burnt out after 10 years. And we will stop with facts unless new people, other people from the network step up and continue our work. We have documented everything very well, so we will be able to pass on everything and we will be able to help. But the 5 people who are the core team at the moment won't continue. So to give you an image of how the study evolved over the years, these are the numbers of festival editions included per survey. These are the brighter columns, and the darker columns are the total number of festival editions included per survey. So you see, like in 2017, it started to grow really fast, and we became more and more efficient. Now I will continue with the methods and what we actually wanted to count and to present in the survey, or to research. The main aim is to assess the gender proportions among artists performing at electronic music festivals in 2022 and 2023. This is for the current one. And there is no restriction in geographical terms, so worldwide festivals. And once a festival was accepted as mainly electronic music, then we would count all the acts, not only the electronic music acts. So if it's like a mixed genre festival. Since we started to count festivals already for 2012, We can also assess the trends in gender proportions over time. So we could look into 11 years. And then since we are not confined to a specific region, we can also compare different regions, different countries, and also compare using other criteria like festival size and lineup or festival size and attendance and other criteria that I will present later. And I already mentioned this. We had a focus on festival with electronic music worldwide. And once we accepted the festival as electronic enough, then we would take all acts into account. We would not only count musical acts, but all acts performing on stage. So we would also, and listed in the lineup, so we would also count visual artists. But we did not count any conferences or talks or discourse programs, and we did not count any exhibitions. We would count artists or acts as listed in the lineup. There are some questions raised. For example, I don't know if everyone is familiar with Holly Herndon. Holly Herndon is a very interesting electronic music artist, but when she performs, she usually performs with 10, 20 people, but they are not listed in the lineup. It's only her name. And that happens sometimes with certain projects, that not everybody is listed in the lineup. And unless you were there and unless you were behind the scenes, you would be able to assess the gender distribution of the people on stage. So we concentrated on what was written on the lineup in the festival program. And the way we collected data was, on the one hand, the troublemakers, that is the core team of the FACTS project, or other female pressure members. And we also contacted all festival organizers of the festivals we had previously in the report. And additionally and newly for this survey, we tried to reduce our workload. And we had a data scientist from Berlin who helped us scrape resident advisor events. So to scrape the data from resident advisor events. Yeah, the troublemakers and the female pressure members and the festival organizers, for them, we used a Google form with simple fields to fill out. The data that we actually collected is the festival name and the year, the country and the city where it took place, the number of acts in the lineup, and analyzed by 5 categories: female acts, male acts, non-binary acts, mixed acts, and unidentified acts. Mixed acts is when several people play together on stage and they have different genders. That's a mixed act. Unidentified act is when we could not assess any gender of the people who performed. We also assessed or tried to assess whether a festival received public funding. And we tried to find out the festival size in terms of attendance, like how many people would go there and see the people perform. And we also tried to find out whether women, men, mixed groups, or non-binary person were artistic directors of the festivals. In the pandemic years, we created like another presentation type of festivals for festivals that took place only online or on site in real life, so to say, and hybrid forms of festivals. Interestingly, like the online festivals continue to a very smaller part, but still that's something that is still happening and did not disappear completely after the pandemic. The gender, for assessing the gender, that's something that a lot of people are wondering, how are we doing this? So at first we take the name from a festival program, how it is presented either in Facebook events, in resident advisor events, or on the flyer. Sometimes we just have images or photos of a flyer and then we read the names. Then we look for the names and try to find either their own homepage or their social media profile, and or their information of their or information about them on their booking agency's website, where you can find biographies. And we look what pronouns do these artists use in their biographies. So when they use she and her pronouns, they are counted as female artists. When they use they, them pronouns for a single person, then they are counted as non-binary artists. When they use he, him, it's a male artist. And transgender artists, we counted like according to their chosen pronouns. Yeah, sometimes you hardly come across this the other way around, but sometimes you come across male artists who use female sounding monikers. For example, Lucy is one that comes off the top of my head. And of course, we count them as male artists if they use male pronouns in their biographies. Now, after the methods, you know how we count it. We proceed to the results. And I make this a bit brighter here because my eyes are really weak. For the years 2022 and 23, we counted 110 festivals. And of these 110 festivals, 175 festival editions. So that means one festival we would have counted, for example, MUTEC 2022 and MUTEC 2023. Most of these festival editions were in Europe, 128, and much less in North America, but these are like the two most present regions in the fact study. We counted for these 2 years, we counted over 11,000 acts, and these festivals took place in 35 countries. Overall, from 2012 to 2023, that means we counted 281 different festivals with over 1,000 festival editions. And again, like the majority of these festivals took place in Europe. And the second biggest world region where the festivals took place was North America. And we counted the crazy number of 56,457 acts since 2012, or actually we started to count in very early 2013. And these festivals, for the whole range of data that we have, took place in 50 countries. So the newest gender proportions for the 2 years combined, the 2 years 2022 and 23, we are at a percentage of 30% for female artists on stage, and a little bit less than 60% of male artists, and the rest is split up between non-binary, mixed, and unidentified acts where we could not find the gender. The percentage for the whole range of years that we have in our facts data shows like an average percentage of 21%. Over the years, for female artists, I mean, and over the years you can see like a steady rise from in 2012. I remember it was like already above average if a festival had 10% of women playing, and now we are tripled, so we are at 30% more or less. But I also noticed that it seems to be like a less steep growth of the proportion of female artists. So it's the curve is kind of flattening. And these are the curves for all four gender categories that we count. We, as you can see, we started with non-binary in 2017 because before that it was not. How should I put it? I mean, in 2017 we leveled up the whole fact survey, and it became over the last 2 decades more and more important to give credit to more than 2 basic gender categories. So you can also see that the non-binary percentage is growing over time, but it's still very little. The same numbers or proportions in a nicer graph is this one here. By the way, you can find all the detailed results if you're interested, and all the numbers on our WordPress website. And you can also, if you are interested in writing something about it or sharing it online, you can download the graphs there. There are some nice infographics. And this is the one of the major ones where you can see the changes over time. So we compared different regions, as I said in the introduction, and you can see that both our prominent world regions, Europe and North America, equally have a rising tendency of the number of female artists playing at electronic music festivals, and Europe is a little bit ahead of North America. Here is an overview of countries where we had the most festival data, and I took it in this presentation because it also shows a graph for France, practically in a very bright red color for you to see. Yeah, I think it doesn't make like a lot of difference. It's more or less the tendency, I would say, equals each other out, and it's rising slightly everywhere. We also wanted to find out whether gender proportions differ by festival size in terms of number of acts. And indeed, we found out that the bigger the festival, the more men are playing, or in the lineup, or being promoted. So smaller festivals tend to have a little bit more women in comparison to men, and bigger festivals have more men compared to women. We also tried to assess whether that we can see significant differences by attendance, but unfortunately it's really hard to find out how many people went to a festival. For some festivals you can find this information online, but for most of the festivals that we counted, you see like 30% we did not know. And of course the festival organizers, they would know, but not a lot of organizers did answer our emails where we asked for their data. Another is, in a similar way, we tried to assess whether the gender proportions would differ related to the gender of the artistic direction of a festival. So whether a woman curates a lineup or a man or a mixed gender group. And again, unfortunately, for a lot of festivals, we did not find out like who was actually curating the lineup. But where we find out, it looks like if it's an all-female team, the proportion of female artists tends to be higher, which is not a big surprise, I think. Also interesting for us was whether festivals have like a different gender proportion or have different gender proportions when they receive public funding or not. Because I think in the European Union in general, but I know it for sure for Austria, but also for Germany, when you use public funding, you're usually asked about gender equality and gender participation. And it's actually, for example, for Music Board Berlin, which is a very important funding institution for festivals in Berlin, they make it conditional. So you only get the money if you have like a 50% women performing in the festival. And so to no surprise, yes, it looks like when festivals receive public funding, the percentage of female artists is higher. But again, it's a bit difficult to find out how a festival is funded, and sometimes they have to have a logo on the website, but in other times we simply don't know. Yeah, we also assessed like gender proportions per presentation type, and we did not like see like a very significant difference. You can find, as I already mentioned, on the detailed results on our WordPress, femalepressure.wordpress.com, and there we have, for example, top 10s rankings of festivals with highest female proportions, and we also have top 10 rankings with festivals highest male proportion, where we used to have like 100% there in previous years. That didn't happen anymore. And we also have really long appendices with gender proportions for all festivals by year. So you can look up all the detailed numbers and sorted in different ways. So also by country and year. And the rankings as well, but not limited to the first 10. Yeah, so these were the results. And now to the discussion parts and the limitations. I already mentioned this. There are a couple of things that were really hard to find out without help from inside, I would say, help from the festival organizers. And this was in particular information about public funding, information about the artistic directors, and the number of people attending a festival. Another limitation of our study certainly is a selection bias. So we would count festivals that were in previous fact reports that were suggested by Female Pressure members or through an online form that we have on our WordPress. We tried to grow more and include more festivals, and we had a way longer list, for example, for this survey, for this study, but we had to cut down. I already mentioned we were exhausted and we did not have enough time, and counting just takes a lot of time. So we did not count all the festivals that we wanted to count. And in particular, it becomes difficult if it's, let's say, an African festival, and most of us who help counting, we are not in Africa or in Asia, maybe in countries where we cannot even read the flyer because it's in a language that nobody from within the team knows. So we do have a bias, and it's no surprise that most of the festivals that we counted actually take place in Europe, because that's what for example, like when we announce, we're working on the Female Fresh Effect survey, help us with the festivals, and everyone is eager to find out about festivals they play, for example, or they go to. So it's reinforcing. And then another problem we encountered a lot, because we look back or we count over 2 years. Sometimes it was even a bit longer. The data is inconsistent. So you look at the resident advisor event a week before the festival happens, or let's say 2 weeks before the festival happens, and then you look at it again 2 weeks after, and it's a different list of names. It's similar, but it's not the same. Or you have a flyer, and then you have a Facebook event, and there is different information. Or you have like some satellite parties, that happens a lot, or after-hour parties, and sometimes these are counted, or these are where you can see the names for who played there, and some people would count it, and in other event listings these names don't show up. So there is there is a lot of room for errors, but at least these errors probably are not biased, so they level each other out, I would say. Then we also tried to verify all the data. So we tried to have as many second counts as possible, and then compare the two counts for one festival edition. And if it was above a certain tolerance margin, we would have a third count, but that was the ideal. And I go back to the issue of time and energy that we put into it. And that's, at some point we decided, okay, it's more important to count like all the festival editions where we already have like a lot of numbers from previous years. It's more important than having a third count of a festival edition, for example. So this time we did not verify as many festival counts as we wished for. More detailed numbers are also in the report, in the PDF that you can download again from our WordPress. Yeah, but the advantages or strengths that we have lie, first of all, in our unique feature. We were the first to count festivals and analyze festival data in festival lineups in this way. So we have like data from a relatively long time, and we are in a unique position to look at trends over time. That I think makes us quite special. Then it is easier for us to analyze festival lineups because we are rooted in the scene. It's more difficult for people who have nothing to do with electronic music and have never met an electronic music artist to figure out, like, is this electronic music at all, or where to find information about a certain artist. Both the strength and the weakness is that we were able to involve festival organizers. We were more successful in this for the 2022 report. This time, less people got back to us. I'm not sure why this is. Maybe it has to do with Google mail policies, like having all the mails land in spam folders. But yeah, less people answered our call for their data. But when they do, of course, we have a big advantage because that information comes from the inside. And it's also a good thing, I think, because it makes festival organizers reflect on their lineup. And because like when we started to count, many did not even think about that. They did not think whether it plays a role if they have women or men on the lineup, they all thought, we are just booking like great music and it's all about the music. But it's not only all about the music, it's always about social factors as well. And we made them reflect on this, and I think that's a good thing. In our discussion part, we also have a longer list of other studies. So there is a lot, but nobody does really like the very same that we do. Yeah, I already mentioned this. I think this is a really interesting point, that it helps a great deal to raise the proportion of female artists if you make the public money funding depending on the gender quota. Another big part of our study is are the points of action, and we have this sorted in different categories. One is for festival organizers, and we collect some tips there, like it's good to have a mixed gender curation team. And then that's actually my favorite example. It comes from an Austrian festival called Hyper Reality, and what they did is that they dedicated certain floors for certain nights to collectives from different backgrounds. So they did not interfere in the booking. They financed and the booking and made the space and the infrastructure available, but they did not interfere in the artistic direction. Delegating artistic direction is another way to get a more diverse lineup. Another thing is you can make public calls. Some festivals do that. They have a call for applications. I think it could be more. It could be interesting to find newcomers. Organize panels and workshops. So education and discussion and awareness is always a very good thing to change things that you're maybe not that happy with. Creating safe spaces and is of course like a crucial thing in having like a more diverse both lineup and audience. So install awareness teams and have a code of conduct in place. Equally important is supporting the local scene. So if you're only booking like the headliners, the famous headliners from out of town or out of country, you will not help a sustainable local scene to grow. And I think this is crucial for also having like a more diverse scene of artists. Yes, and you can not only install like an awareness team, but you could also install a committee for your festival that is in charge of diversity, equity, and inclusion. The action points for artists is they could have inclusion riders, and for those of you who might not be familiar with it, for example, there's this great DJ from the UK who lives in Berlin. It's called Object, and he says it's in his rider that he does not play if there are not at least, I think, 2 female artists playing at the event. So that's an inclusion rider. You demand it. If you want to book me, you have to fulfill certain criteria. It's always helpful to look for diversity in your own circles. If you are an artist, to foster like a more diverse music scene in general. When you are an artist, you are like some more frequent than others, but it will happen that people will ask you to recommend other artists. And when you are in the position to recommend other artists, think more diverse yourself. Don't only think of the first name that comes into your mind, but do a little bit more of research. Same goes for referencing artists, and that also is true for the academic world, I think. If you reference other scientists or artists, or if you relate yourself to somebody more successful or more prominent than you are as an artist, try to look out for other women or artists of color or Black artists. So I think this system of recommendation and reference is really reinforcing the status quo. If we don't change that, it will take us even longer to have a more diverse scene. And yeah, another thing you can do as an artist is you can connect locally, but also with wider networks, like, for example, Female Pressure, and get in touch with people from other backgrounds. And there you can also start to practice allyship and solidarity. We have some calls to action from media, and it's include artists from marginalized groups. And often it happens that women are asked gender questions in interviews. People of color are asked questions about race or ethnicity in interviews. That's boring. Do something else. Come up with something more original. Similarly, it's a good idea to report about women not only around the 8th of March. Cover initiatives and events that do inclusion and diversity work is a kind of a no-brainer. Same goes for covering events with a diverse lineup, or if there isn't one, then you could also make an issue of it. Reflect your own bias is not only for media, it's for everyone, including myself, of course, as well. We also have some points of action for audience, and that is that is, for example, report harassment and abuse, read and internalize the code of conduct, call for an awareness concept if a club or a festival doesn't have one. And, oops, sorry, wrong button. And if you are in a position and if you dare, then you can, of course, also call out a very one-dimensional lineup that has a lack of diversity. And now it's the last part of my long talk. It's credits. These are the so-called troublemakers. Is 5 people from different places: Corinna McDonald, Meg Wilhoit, Stephanie Roll, that's our statistician, Tanja Ehmann, and myself. And the graphic design is done by Elisa Metz from Cologne, and the photography of the patch cables is Friederike Wetzels. And our press and PR work was done by Angelika Lepper, aka Acid Maria, also a fantastic DJ from South Germany. And we had a lot of people from the Female Pressure Network help us collect data. Yep. That's it.